Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Yusuf Shakeel and you are watching jQuery tutorial series. In this video, we are going to learn how to add elements outside existing elements. And guys, I'll post the tutorial notes on my website tyclassroom.com. And all the code that we are going to write in this video, I'll put them in my GitHub repository. You will find all the important links in the video description, so feel free to check that out. And guys, if you enjoy watching my videos, then please subscribe my channel if you haven't already by clicking that subscribe button. Alright guys, let's get started. I have opened the project folder in Sublime Text, and inside the project folder, I have created a new file add-element-outside.html, which is this one. And inside the JS folder, I have created a new file add-element-outside.js, which is this one. And I have included this JS file inside this HTML file by writing this script tag. And I have also included jQuery, which is also inside the JS folder. And now we'll save this file and we'll open it in Chrome. So we'll open our project folder and we'll open this add-element-outside.html file. And we'll also open the DevTools. So we'll go to View, Developer, and we'll select the DevTools. And we'll switch to the Console tab. And this is empty. That means we don't have any error. All right. Now to add a new element outside an existing element, we use 4 methods provided by jQuery. And those 4 methods are before, insert before, after, and insert after. Now before we start discussing about those 4 methods, let us go ahead and create a div inside our HTML file. And we'll give this div an ID sample-div1. So we have created a div inside our HTML file and we have given it an ID sample-div1. And now inside this div, let us go ahead and create 3 paragraphs. So our first paragraph is para1, then we have para2, and then para3. So now if we save the file and go back to Chrome and reload, we get the 3 paragraphs. Now let's say we want to add a 4th paragraph, para4, outside and before this div having ID sample-div1. So in order to do that, we have to use the before method provided by jQuery. So we'll switch to our JS file, and the first topic is the before method. And we use the before method to add a new element outside an existing element and before that element. So if we want to add a new paragraph before this div, so we'll first target this div by ID. So we'll write $, round brackets, and within double quotes, hash, and then the ID. And then we'll call the before method. Now in the before method, we'll pass the paragraph that we want to add before the div having ID sample-div1. And in this case, we want to add a paragraph having text para4. So we'll pass a paragraph and it contains a text para4. So if we save this file, go back to Chrome and reload, we get para4. And if we inspect this para4, and if we check this elements tab, we can see this para4 is added before the div having ID sample-div1. So if we want to add a new element outside an existing element and before that existing element, then we use the before method. Another way of achieving the same result is by using the insert before method. And it is similar to the before method, and it only differs in the way we write the code. So let's check that out. Our next topic is the insert before method. So let us go ahead and comment this line. And if we save the file, we'll see that para4 will get removed from our output. So if we go back to Chrome and reload, we see that the para4 is now removed. Now let us add para4 before the div having ID sample-div1, and let us add this para4 outside the div and before that div. And this time we are going to use insert before method. So we'll go back to our code, and when we are using this insert before method, then we first pass the element that we want to add outside and before the targeted element. So we'll write $, and within round brackets, we'll pass the element that we want to add. And in this case, we want to add a paragraph. And the paragraph has a text para4. And now we call the insert before method. And inside this insert before method, we pass the targeted element. And the targeted element is the div having ID sample-div1. So we'll pass hash, since we are targeting it by ID, and then the ID, which is sample-div1. So this line will add a paragraph having text para4 before the div having ID sample-div1, and it will add this paragraph outside the div. So if we save the file and open Chrome and reload, we get para4 before this div having ID sample-div1. And inside this elements tab, we can see that we have a new paragraph, para4, which is added before the div having ID sample-div1, and this para4 is added outside this div. So if we want to add any new element outside and before an existing element, then we can use the before method and we can use the insert before method. And the only difference between these two methods is how we write the code. If we are using the before method, then we first target the element and then we add the new element that we want to insert before the targeted element. And if we are using the insert before method, then we first write the element that we want to insert before the targeted element, and then we pass the targeted element. Alright, so we have covered how to add elements before existing element. Now let us go ahead and add element after an existing element. So we'll first comment this line and we'll save the file, and if we check the output in Chrome, we see that the fourth paragraph is gone. Now we'll switch back to our code, and our next topic is the after method. And we use the after method to add a new element outside an existing element. So if we want to add, let's say, para4 outside this div having ID sample-div1, and we want to add that para4 after this div, that is at this place. So if we want to achieve that, we use the after method provided by jQuery. So when we are using the after method, then we first target the element, and in this case we are targeting the element by ID. So we'll write hash sample-div1, and then we call the after method, and then we pass the element that we want to add after and outside the targeted element. And in this case, we want to add a paragraph. And the text of that paragraph is para4. So if we now save the file, go back to Chrome and reload, we get para4 after this div. And we can check this in the Elements tab. So if we look inside the Elements tab, we can see that we have para4, and this para4 is outside the div having ID sample-div1. And this para4 is added after the targeted div. So if we want to add a new element outside and after a targeted element, then we use the after method. Another way of achieving the same result is by using the insert after method. Our next topic is the insert after method. So if we comment this line and we go back to Chrome and reload, we can see that the fourth paragraph is now gone. So we'll switch back to our JS file, and this time we are going to again insert para 4 after and outside the div having id sample-div1, and this time we are going to use the insert after method. So when we are using the insert after method, we have to first add the element that we want to insert after the targeted element. So we first write $ round brackets, and within double quotes, we pass the element that we want to add. And in this case, we want to insert a paragraph having text para 4. So after this, we call the insert after method. And then we pass the targeted element. In this case, we are targeting the element by ID, and the ID is sample-div1. So we write hash sample-div1. So by writing this line, we are inserting a new paragraph having text para 4 after and outside the targeted element having ID sample-div1. So now if we save the file, go back to Chrome and reload, we again get para 4 outside the div having ID sample-div1. And we can check that by switching to this elements tab, and inside this element tab we can see that we have a new paragraph para 4, and this para 4 is added outside and after this div having ID sample-div1. So if we want to add a new element outside and after the targeted element, then we can use the after method and we can use the insert after method. The only difference between after and insert after method is in the way we write this code. So if we are using the after method, then we first target the element and then we write the element that we want to insert after the targeted element. And if we use the insert after method, then we first write the element that we want to insert after the targeted element, and then we write the targeted element. Alright guys, this brings us to the end of this tutorial. I'll post the tutorial notes on my website dyclassroom.com. And all the code that we are writing in this tutorial series, I'll put them in my GitHub repository. You will find all the important links in the YouTube video description, so please check that out. And guys, if you find my videos interesting, then please like my videos, and guys, please don't forget to subscribe my channel and click that bell icon so that you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video, and like always, stay happy and keep smiling. Bye!